everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps, and today I want to show you how to make this teal pumpkin Halloween decoration. For this project you will need polymer clay in various colors, Halloween shaped cookie cutters, a rolling pin or roller, a work surface to roll your clay out on, a craft knife or utility knife, some wax paper, some baby oil or mineral oil, and a knitting needle or yarn needle or some other pointed object to make a hole with. A small crochet hook can also be useful for attaching a string to hang your project with. I have this board that I use to roll out my clay, but sometimes the clay sticks to it. So to prevent that, I'm wrapping it in some wax paper. And now we're ready for some clay. First, soften it with your hands, and then roll it out nice and smooth with a rolling pin. Now place the cookie cutter so that there are no thin spots. Make sure every part of the cookie cutter is nice and even on the clay. Now press down firmly, and with the cookie cutter in place, remove any excess clay from around the outside. Store your excess clay in some plastic wrap to keep it soft. Now you can remove the cutter. Be very careful not to distort your piece. There we go, nice and even. Now pick it up carefully and move it off to the side so that we can roll out the next piece. I've rolled out some teal for the pumpkin, and now I'm not cutting it with my cutter, I'm just making an indentation to mark where the pumpkin is going to be. So I'm just pressing very gently. Put some copper-colored clay over the space where the stem is going to be. Spread it out so that it spreads over the edge of the outline. That way when you cut it later, it will fill the whole space. Now use your roller to roll it nice and flat and make sure that it sticks to the teal underneath it. Use some darker brown clay to add the detail to the stem. Roll it into very fine, thin little rolls and place it on top of the stem with your finger. It's okay if it's not perfectly straight because it's supposed to look natural. Once you have a look you like, use your roller to roll it all down smooth and stick it all together. Use the same technique to add some lines to your pumpkin. In this case, I'm using a darker teal. If you don't have a darker teal, you can mix some of your original teal with a little bit of black to make it a little bit darker. Add the black very little bit at a time because you don't want to make it too dark too quickly. Again, once you have everything in place, go ahead and roll it down with your roller. When it's all done, place your cutter carefully over the indentation you made earlier and press down to cut out your pumpkin. Peel away the excess clay, starting with the solid teal so that the other colors don't get mixed into it. Now you can peel away the parts where the colors are mixed and set that aside. We'll use it a little bit later. Remove the pumpkin from the cutter and set it aside so we can work on our next piece. Roll out some black clay for the bat, cut it the same way you did the ghost, and peel away the excess clay for later. Cover your work surface with some wax paper because we're about to make a mess. Remember that mixed piece of clay we had earlier with lots of colors? We're going to use that to make what's called slip. Slip is basically thinned out liquid clay that can be used as sort of a glue to help hold pieces together. You make it by taking a bit of clay and adding some baby oil to thin it out. Start with a little lump of clay and some baby oil and mix it together until the clay starts to dissolve in the oil. You want to make sure you have no lumps, and you should end up with a thin paste. This may not be enough, and it might dry out before we get to use it, so let's add a little more clay and a little bit more baby oil. Using slip helps the pieces to stick together without having to press on them, so you don't end up with fingerprints or deforming your pieces. Once you've made about this much slip, go ahead and wash your hands, and now we can start putting the pieces together. Gently arrange your pieces how you want them to go. You can play with them a little bit, but be careful not to add any fingerprints or deform your pieces at all. If you do, you'll have to make them over again. Once you have an arrangement you like, use a craft knife to trim any rough bits from the edges. Now let's add some eyes to our ghost with a little bit of the extra black clay. You only need very tiny dots for this because they will spread out a little bit when we roll them in. Use your roller to gently press the dots into place for the eyes. Now let's use some slip to connect the pieces that overlap. First, score the overlapping areas with a craft knife to make the surfaces rough. Then use your finger to spread a little bit of the slip on each surface and lay the pieces together. Continue doing this everywhere that you have pieces that overlap, until all the pieces are connected with a little bit of slip to help them stick together. Now let's make some leaves for our pumpkin. Pumpkin leaves are generally heart-shaped, so cut out some heart shapes from some green clay. Use a darker green clay to make some veins for your leaves. If you don't have a darker green, you can mix a little bit of black with the green that you used for the leaf. Roll this very thin and use your craft knife to cut small pieces and place them on your leaf. Once all your details are in place, press them down with your roller and trim your leaf into its final shape with your craft knife. Score and attach the leaves with slip just like you did for the other pieces. To reduce the bulk where the leaves overlap, you can trim off the overlapping section of the lower leaf. Carefully make any final adjustments to the arrangements of your pieces. Be sure to use more slip if needed. Use a pointed object to create a hole to hang your decoration with. Here I'm using a double-pointed knitting needle. Bake your decoration as directed on the clay package and allow it to cool. Once cool, use a yarn needle or crochet hook to attach a piece of thread or yarn. Tie a knot at the other end, and now your decoration is finished. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, or leave me a comment. Thanks for watching and happy Halloween!